How do I send free anonymous email? Hi everyone, I'm Leo Notenboom for askleo.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure and hit that like button. Let people know that you enjoyed or benefited from this video. It'll help others find what they're looking for when they search on YouTube. So here's the question we got. I want to send email to a person I'm talking to on a dating service, but I don't want them to be able to get my real email address and find me. What do I do? It's actually a common question, not just for dating services, but for any number of interesting situations where you really do want to say anonymous. Anonymous is the key word here. You're trying to send what's referred to as anonymous email. It's a simple concept, but as with so many things, the devil is in the details. So let's look at a couple of the things that are important when it comes to concealing your identity in email. First off, hiding an email address is easy. It's trivial. All you really need to do is create a fake account on any of the free email services using completely fake information, and then use that account to send your message. Again, make sure that there's nothing in that account that relates to you in any way. Make sure the recovery information is bogus, hopefully useful, but bogus or maybe not even set because you're only going to use this account for one thing. Make sure that any required birthday or phone number or other email address are all bogus. Just make sure that there's nothing that you enter into that email account that could in any way be traced back to you. That's fairly simple. The email will come from an email address that is in no way tied to you. Unfortunately, there's more to email than just the email address. Of course, everybody thinks that it's very easy to locate a person using their IP address. That's not necessarily true. And email doesn't necessarily expose your IP address anyway. But it can. Sometimes. And there's really no good way for me to tell you whether or not your situation will cause that IP address to be exposed. There are email programs and services that automatically include the IP address of the machine you're typing on and the headers that you don't see that get sent with every email. It's not common, but it happens. Similarly, there's sometimes other information about the machine you're using, like its name, that can sometimes be exposed, once again, in those email headers that you don't see. So what's important here to understand is that while that information generally doesn't allow someone to find you, it might be used by law enforcement to find you. They find your IP address and they have a reasonable reason for them to backtrace where that was and work with your ISP to see where you were at the time you were using that IP address. It's possible they could find you that way. If that's the level of anonymity you need, which is probably more than is necessary for a dating service, then you need to also be looking at what are called anonymous proxies or gateways. The most common one, the most known one, is something called Tor, the onion router. When you make a connection through Tor, in reality, you're not connecting directly to the email service you're using. You're connecting through a series of servers distributed around the world, actually, that each in turn hide your location and your quote-unquote real IP address. So the way to send truly anonymous email where nothing technical can be traced to you requires that you use something like Tor to hide your IP address. You create a fake account at a free email service through that Tor connection, making sure that that account doesn't have any information that could somehow be traced back to you. But wait, there's more. There may be more than IPs and addresses. Here's the weird thing. It is sometimes possible to identify, or at least statistically show a high probability of identifying the originator of an email by the words you use. the typos that are common to your specific typing style. There's any number of just weird things that potentially could tell someone who you are simply by the characteristics of the message that you're sending. Again, this is probably not something you're going to be too concerned about if all you're doing is hiding on a dating service. But if this is something more serious, say you're a whistleblower or you're doing something else that requires a high degree of anonymity and a lot of protection from people with a lot of resources to potentially track you down, there are things beyond the purely technical that could potentially reveal your identity. So the bottom line here is, as long as there's no reason to get the authorities involved, setting up a free email account with fake information is probably enough. If you're into something more serious and deeper, well, it's possible you may need to take additional steps. I hope that was helpful. For links, for updates, and so forth, visit askleo.com/11097. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.